Madam Speaker, I want to thank the honourable member for his speech. He mentioned in his speech, Madam Speaker, about Conservatives not speaking in the House today, and the leader backtracking from the statement that he made yesterday in this House. I just want to find out from the honourable member if the Conservatives got a call from Prime Minister Modi or former Prime Minister Stephen Harper not to speak on this topic and backtrack from the statement that the leader of the opposition made yesterday in this House.
Honourable member for Edmonton Grisba.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And I too want to thank my honourable colleague who's been a champion for his community. In particular right now, your leadership is important, not only to Canadians, but of course to many of those of Indian descent. So I want to thank you for your words today and for championing something very difficult. To you and your family, I wish you all the best. Now, directly to why we are hearing silence from the Conservative Party today in the face of what is a tremendously serious issue to our national security and to our sovereignty. I will simply quote the Prime Minister of yesterday, the Prime Minister Stephen Harper. He once said that Prime Minister Modi is a good friend, is the best partner Canada could have in India. I would challenge that narrative and suggest that when a Canadian dies, when a Canadian is shot dead, now is the time to speak. Now is the time to oppose such words. Retract those words would be my deepest request to the Leader of the Opposition today. Retract, condemn those words by the Prime Minister Stephen Harper today in light of the news we've now heard.
Questions and comments? The honourable member for Vancouver East.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I want to thank my colleague, the member from Edmonton Guisborough, for his powerful speech. And I think it's a difficult speech to have been made. But what we need in this House more than ever is for us to speak truth to power and to challenge each other to stand up, because what is at stake is Canadians' safety and Canada's sovereignty. To that end, I guess my question is this. If the Conservatives feel that we must take on foreign interference with China, then it follows that if you want to ensure all Canadians are protected against foreign interference, then shouldn't they stand up in this House today in this Take Note debate and join with all of us, the Liberals, the NDP, and the Bloc, and stand united to send a clear message to the Indian government that we will not tolerate this kind of action and this kind of threat for Canadians, no matter where they come from and where they are in our communities today. We are united as one, and we're all equals as Canadians.
The honourable member for Edmonton Grisba.
Madam Speaker, when I decided to put my name forward to represent the fine people of Edmonton Grisba, I knew it was on the principles of knowing that it is now my duty to protect Canadians. It is our duty to protect our country. It is our duty to protect the principles of the rights to free speech, the rights to even dissent, and the rights to exist in a peaceful country. And I do not back down from that commitment and pledge today. However, Madam Speaker, I would suggest that the Conservatives fulfill their oath of office, represent the communities they say they represent, and stand in this place and make clear that we will not tolerate when Canadians are murdered.
Questions and comments? The honourable member for London Pencil.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Earlier today in the debate, it was mentioned that there are those in this place who are putting trade policy before human rights, and I would just like to hear my honourable colleague's reaction and thoughts on that. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for Edmonton Grisba, 30 seconds.
In the great tradition of many New Democrats prior to me, and many of those who fought for freedom and justice elsewhere, it has been clear that people must stand before profits. They must. We do this, Madam Speaker, because the dignity of Canadians, the dignity of our morality, and the dignity of our country is at risk when we fail to do so. It is up to each and every one of us now at this very delicate moment to be united, to stand with all Canadians, and to send a strong message to Modi that we will not tolerate this. We will find those who have done this, and we will bring those to justice who dare harm the sovereignty of Canadians and the protection that we all hold so sacred.
Resuming debate, the Honourable Minister for International Development? No. No, Emergency Preparedness. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I will be sharing my time with the member of Windsor-Tecumseh. Madam Speaker, Canada offers a promise to live in a democracy where fundamental rights are safeguarded and guaranteed. That is why Canada is home to so many Canadians who have come from every corner of our planet, many of whom are proudly represented in this House. They come to Canada because they know that we protect the rights of minorities. And Canadians have the right to express their views peacefully. Standing up for human rights should not label you as a terrorist. Canadians understand that this country thrives because we listen to each other and work together, even when we disagree. And I would say especially when we disagree. And I've always said it does not matter if you came to this country 300 years ago, 30 years ago, or 3 years ago. We are all immigrants to this land. And it is only the First Nations of these lands who can say these lands was their original home. As Canadians, we share a common value. We are stronger when we learn from each other, when we peacefully share different ideas. It is crucial that these principles be safeguarded. The potential involvement of the Indian government in the killing of a Canadian citizen on Canadian soil is a grave violation of our sovereignty and goes against the principles that we hold so dear. And the perpetrators of the murder of Hardeep Singh Nijjar need to be brought to justice. And protecting the integrity of the investigation is crucial. I want to thank the law enforcement and intelligence agencies for the work that they are doing on behalf of Canadians. Our government keeps working to modernize, enhance Canada's security and intelligence organizations, and we are providing them with the tools to take action and disrupt foreign interference and threats. And I have complete confidence in their work, and I know that they will do all that is within their power to protect Canada's sovereignty. And my message to Canadians originally who were born in India or their families who originally came from there, Sikhs, Hindus, Muslims, Buddhists, Christians, and more. As we move through this extremely difficult time, I want to stress that calm, kindness, and unity are of the utmost importance right now. Let's not give a foreign state an opportunity or reason to finger point at us. Those who seek to undermine Canada's sovereignty will do and say things to delegitimize and undermine your existence as a Canadian. To that I say, whatever your faith, you are a Canadian. Whatever the color of your skin, you are a Canadian. You are a Canadian, and Canada is a free and strong democracy. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Apologies. Questions and comments. The Honourable Parliament Secretary to the Government House. The Honourable Deputy House Speaker.
Not even that quite yet, but anyways, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. You know, I really enjoyed the speech that the Minister just made, and in particular how he referenced that if unless you are of Indigenous descent, we've all come here over the last few hundred years. As a matter of fact, you know, I'm first-generation Canadian, as both of my parents came from Europe after World War II. And I think that when people have always sought out to come to Canada, it's because they've looked for a place to come where democracy is supreme, that we have the opportunity to thrive, that we have the freedoms that come with being able to express ourselves. And when we have potentially an attack on that to democracy and those freedoms. It seriously calls into question, how we can see ourselves as Canadians moving forward and what we can do in order to protect that. I'm wondering if the minister can comment on that.
Well, Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the very insightful question. Canadians have been coming here to Canada, to these lands, for a better life, for better protection, whether it was 300 years ago, as I said, or even 30 years ago. When we come together, we learn from one another. We are thriving multiculturalism, and we celebrate our diversity. But we also celebrate where we came from. I'm very proud. I am personally very proud of the fact that I was born in a small village of Mabili in India. I too am concerned about have concerns of human rights violations, not just in India, but all over the world. I stood up very strongly, and still to this day, when it comes to Russian aggression in Ukraine. In Canada, we have the opportunity to stand up for human rights because that's what Canada represents. And our message to all of the first generations who are born here, who have not seen the history in the past of where their families have come from, is not to take for granted what we have here. And that's what we are talking about today and protecting that. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Questions and comments. The Honourable Member for Vancouver East.
I want to thank the Minister for his comments. He's absolutely correct in indicating that multiculturalism and those of us who are immigrants help build this country. And that we're equal partners in the sense that we contribute when we also face challenges. We, of course, are living here on the lands of Indigenous peoples that's allowed us to be here as settlers. But what's troubling me the most here in this debate tonight is the fact that the leader of the Conservatives and the Conservative caucus want Canadians to believe that they're friends of the immigrant community. Yet when a member of our community whose lives have been lost at the hands of potentially a foreign government and that interference, and we know that foreign interference is a real threat in this country right now, how could it be that the Conservatives are entirely silent in this debate tonight? Where are they for the immigrant community who are Canadians here in Canada that's made Canada their home? And when our lives are being threatened by a foreign government, why aren't they here to speak up and to challenge the Indian government who may well be involved in the loss of life for a Canadian?
Excellent question.
The Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, I think the official opposition silence speaks loudly right now. And when it comes to their voice earlier, when it comes to foreign interference of one particular country, I want to say when it comes to talk about and Hardeep's family and his son would understand this very well, of the Sikh values of fighting for others' rights. And let this incident not just be about one country. This is a message to all communities, Chinese community, Iranian community, and many others who are feeling the anxiety of this, that our country, your government, will stand together. And at the same time, hopefully, they're listening to the silence of one particular party as well.
Bravo.
Thank you.
Bravo.
Questions and comments. The Honourable Member for Surrey Newton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. After 1984, when the Golden Temple was demolished by the military attack in India, there was a genocide of Sikhs in Delhi. After that, the emotions were very high in the community across the globe, and he was growing up. And in fact, one of the casualty is at home. When we talk about the Minister of Diversity, Inclusion, and people with disabilities, her own maternal uncle, mom's brother, was killed brutally just because he was restless and he was emotional. And many people here and his constituent faced the same consequences. Would you comment on that, please?
The Honourable Minister. Very brief answer.
Sadly, many families, including my own, have very similar stories to this. And I was 14 years old at that time, and I remember trying to serve my country in the military and constantly being attacked and being accused of being a terrorist. And fortunately for me, I had, as a police officer, I had that ability, I had my status and in the military. But many Canadians don't have that. And they get, every time they stand up for human rights, are called out. One of the things we will always do, we will stand up for fundamental human rights, but we will also stand up for the rule of law in our own country. Thank you.
Resuming debate, the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Employment, Workforce Development and Official Languages.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. Canada is home to the largest proportion of Sikhs on planet Earth. That is more than in India, more than in the United States, more than any other nation in the world. We think of the many vibrant Sikh communities that now exist across Canada, in Vancouver, Surrey, Brampton, Calgary, and Montreal, and many, many more cities. And with each passing day, more and more Sikh Canadians are calling my community of Windsor, Essex, their home. They design and build cars at Stellantis and Ford. Sikhs care for seniors and residents at Windsor Regional and Hotel Dieu Grace Hospital. They open businesses and restaurants and share their culture and tradition with us. On County Road 42, there sits a beautiful Gurdwara, where Sikhs in my community have gathered for more than 2 decades. It is a place of peaceful worship. It is a place of community, where families come together, where young Sikh Canadians go to Punjabi school and attend Khalsa camp in the summers, where international students come to share in a meal and get a taste of home, where in fact the community prepares meals for each other, where they prepare meals for the hungry and homeless in my community, where they prepare meals for visitors like myself. I've been to the Gurdwara many times to celebrate Vaisakhi, to light a candle for Diwali, to share in the grief when 3 international students from St. Clair College lost their lives in a tragic car crash, to speak with the incredible truck drivers that day after day deliver the food, the medicines, and the car parts that make our community go. More recently, I visited this summer with my friend, the Honourable Member from Brampton West, the Minister of Diversity and Inclusion and Persons with Disabilities, and herself a Sikh, to meet with young Sikh Canadians attending Khalsa camp. On another occasion, the Minister of Housing and the Minister of Defence joined me at the Gurdwara. 3 ministers, a Sikh, a Muslim, and a Hindu, all welcomed warmly at the Gurdwara. Madam Speaker, that is the best of what Canada is about. To think for even 1 second that a member of my community, could be killed just steps away from the Gurdwara for their political beliefs by a foreign agent working for a foreign country is abhorrent to me. And it is an offense to every single Canadian who believes in democracy, freedom of speech, and in the sovereignty of our laws in our country, Canada. But this is not new. For Sikh Canadians, such intimidation is not new. In the last 24 hours, I've had a chance to speak with members of my Sikh community. And they tell me the same thing. They worry. They worry that if they protest the treatment of farmers in Punjab, that they or their families could be targeted. I see protests and rallies in Parliament Hill almost every single day for all sorts of issues. And just today, I attended a union rally calling for the elimination of replacement workers, which we will. Peaceful protest is what Canada is all about. It is how we expand our freedoms. It is how we improve quality of life for all of our citizens. And I cannot imagine someone fearing for their life because they are expressing their political view. But here we are. My family knows this fear. Back in the old country in Poland, my father was a local leader of the Solidarity movement that fought for the rights of workers in communist Poland. And just after midnight on December 13, 1981, the police came to our door and arrested my father. Thousands of Solidarity leaders were rounded up and imprisoned. For weeks, we did not know whether my father was alive or dead, all because he dared to speak up and stand up for justice and for rights. Like so many immigrants, my family came to Canada to flee oppression, to flee political persecution. Canada accepted my family as political refugees and gave us safe harbor. That is the dream for millions of immigrants and new Canadians. And that dream has been shattered with the news of the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. I had a chance tonight to speak with the family of Mr. Nijjar, who call my community home. To you and to all Sikh Canadians, including those back home in Windsor-Tecumseh, we stand with you in solidarity. The Sikh faith compels us to speak out against injustice, and so we must, and so we will. We will pursue the truth. We will bring justice, but let us do so together, united as Canadians. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires? The Honourable Member for Surrey Centre.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'd like to ask the Parliamentary Secretary if he's been witness to a lot of debates here on foreign interference. All members of this House, all parties in this House have condemned any form of foreign interference, particularly when we had the debates on China's foreign interference into Canada. I find it very surprising that of every other party has spoken in condemning foreign interference by India, but one party is definitely silent in here. Does it mean that only foreign interference would affect your votes as a Conservative? Are you to stand up for them? Or does it mean you stand up for any foreign interference when lives are at stake? And in this case, a person lost his life, and I don't see that other side speaking. I want to know if it only matters when Conservative votes get lost and a member from Steveston loses an election, and only then does it matter. Can the member from Windsor to come speak?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
I want to thank my honourable colleague for his excellent question and also for his incredible work, for being the voice of communities across immigrant communities, new Canadian communities from across the country, coast to coast. You know, solidarity means that an attack on one of us is an attack on all of us as Canadians. And it is up to all of us in this House to stand together and to stand firm against this type of assault. This is an attack on the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. It's an attack on who we are as Canadians. And my honourable colleague is absolutely right. The silence from the opposition members is absolutely deafening.
Just one party.
And it is absolutely, one party I would say, there's one party, and that's the Conservative Party. And their silence is absolutely deafening, and it is absolutely telling. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires? The Honourable Member for Kingston, the Islands.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. You know, just building on that last question, you would almost have to assume, based on the lack of intervention into this debate by Conservatives, that it is an orchestrated, coordinated, and collaborated attempt to be absolutely silent on the issue. The only individual to speak was the House Leader for the Conservatives, who had a 20-minute spot to speak, spoke for only 5 minutes, and since then we've heard from no Conservatives. They haven't even got up to ask a simple question. This is not an issue of politics. This is an issue of solidarity. This is an issue of realizing that we all come together because we all respect and value the rule of law in this country. I'm wondering if the Parliamentary Secretary can comment on the incredible absence that we've seen in this House today, not just in speeches, but in the simple act of just getting up and asking a question and showing that solidarity.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank my honourable colleague for his excellent question. You know, when our ally was Ukraine was attacked viciously by Russia, all of us rose in the House of Commons to speak, to show our solidarity. We were here for late-night take-note debates and emergency debates. We were here, stood up, and we cheered on the Ukrainian allies when they were under assault. We said, Slava Ukraini Slava. And yet here we are, one of ours, a Canadian citizen, was killed. And there are serious allegations, significant allegations, that it's tied to a foreign agent in a foreign country. And where is the opposition? Where is the official opposition? Where is the Conservative Party in terms of their voice? They're not here. We haven't heard from them. That is absolutely appalling. And it's something that I hope my colleagues across the way will reflect upon. I'm sure Canadians will reflect upon that as well.
Questions and comments? The Honourable Member for Waterloo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I hear from constituents in the riding of Waterloo, and I hear about the things that are on their minds. And when something's on their mind, it's on my mind because my job is to represent them. And I have some good friends and a close uncle to me who lives in the members' riding. And I do want to commend the member on his speech today. It was very personal, and it reminds me of the Canada that we know exists and is here. And that means that we all stand together and we make sure that we take care of each other. And so with that, I would like to hear from the member as to what advice and guidance is he offering to Canadians at this time. We know that we have an independent judicial system. We know that action is being taken. We know that the government wants to see that action taken. But what is the best thing for Canadians to do at this time, especially Canadians from Indian descent, of Sikh faith, of Punjabi speaking communities? What is his advice to all those people?
Very brief answer from the honourable member, from the honourable parliamentary secretary.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank the honourable member for the excellent question. You know, our national anthem says, "Stand on guard for thee." And I think it's important that we stand on guard for each other, that we protect each other, and that one of us is hurt or when one of us is killed, we stand up, we show up. And I think that's the very basic thing that Canadians expect from us, that we rally together, that we show up, we support each other, and we stand in solidarity. Thank you, Madam.
Resuming debate, the honourable member for Burnaby South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll be sharing my time with the member for Port Moody, Coquitlam. When I first learned of these allegations, it shocked me. And then when I thought about these allegations even further, I became very angry. A Canadian citizen was killed in Canada by a foreign government. Those are the allegations. That should shock and anger all of us. There is no other response. A Canadian is alleged to have been killed in our country by a foreign government. This is a time for unity. This is a time for unwavering commitment to let people know, people who are now very afraid, people who have seen a foreign government step into our sovereign nation and kill someone. We have to send a message that this is wrong. This can never happen in our country, and there will be the most severe of consequences, using the full weight of the judicial system of our country, using the full weight of our security apparatus to ensure that every single person implicated in this matter is found, brought to justice, and prosecuted with the full weight and power of the Canadian justice system.
Hear, hear.
That's what needs to happen. Mm-hmm. We need to have solidarity. A Canadian was killed. That means everyone in this House should stand together to say we demand justice. We demand action. It is a fundamental attack, not just on our sovereignty. It attacks the freedom of speech and the right to be secure and safe. A fundamental right that every Canadian should be able to be safe in their country, should be able to be free to express their thoughts, be able to express dissent, to criticize, to critique our country, other countries, policies, decisions of governments. That is absolutely what it means to be in a democracy. And let us also be clear. There's a significant propaganda machine that the government of India has put in motion. And let us talk a moment about the government of India and separate that from the people of India. We don't hold the people of India guilty for the actions of the government. People of Indian descent have contributed immensely to this country. New Canadians that come from India, come from South Asia, have contributed in so many ways, in so many sectors, whether it's in healthcare, in business, in the arts, in the culture sector, in the communities that we all live in. They've contributed immensely. Our concern is specifically on the allegations involving the government of India. And for a moment, let's reflect on what this government of India is about. We're talking about the Prime Minister, Narendra Modi. This is a Prime Minister who was once Chief Minister of Gujarat, was implicated in the massacre of thousands of Muslims. This is a current government that makes no qualms about wanting to divide the country, exclude minority communities, oppress critics, academics, journalists, systemic oppression of women, minority communities, the poor, low caste. This is a government that is rife with human rights violations. And so it really begs the question, when we see other parties like the Conservative Party try to stand up and parrot the propaganda of the Indian government, whose side are they on? Who are they trying to defend? We should see a solidarity in defending Canadians and a Canadian that was killed. So we've got a number of things that we want to ask for, and this is what I want to make clear. For now, what we are calling for are a number of concrete steps. First and foremost, I wrote a letter to the Commissioner of the Public Inquiry to indicate that India now must be included in that public inquiry. We need protections offered to anyone who has received threats to their lives. We need to make sure that there's diplomatic sanctions and a review of all diplomats from India in Canada. And the RSS, which is a paramilitary far-right network from India, must be banned in Canada. We need to take the threat to Canadians seriously. We need to see serious action. This is a call to arms for us to defend our democracy, to defend our freedom of expression, to defend our freedoms in this country, and to use the weight of a democratic nation and our allies to defend justice, to defend freedom, to defend the security and liberty of life. Thank you.
Questions and comments. The Honourable Member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And as the leader of a much smaller opposition party, I think it's a moment for solidarity. And I really appreciate the fact that I'm able, through great good luck, to immediately follow my friend from Burnaby South, the leader of the Democratic Party, to echo his words that we need to show solidarity, that every Canadian from every ethnicity and every part of the world that has found their way here to our country feels welcomed, knows they are valued, and of course that we recognize that we're on lands that we've stolen from Indigenous peoples. But the majority of the Canadian population, we came from somewhere else. And I've found the speeches from colleagues and friends about their own journeys and their families' journeys to these shores to be very moving. But we do unify as Canadians, and I just want to thank the Honourable Leader of the New Democratic Party for his words. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Burnaby South.
Thank you. I also want to send a message, and I thank the member for her kind words, and I want to send a message to people right now who are thinking about what this means for them. People who might be afraid, who might be scared, who might be worried that their advocacy, their human rights work, their critique of the Indian government or any other diaspora community that's wondering if they criticize their country of origin, the government policies, that they might fear violence against them as well. I want to send a message that I stand with you, and we will not back down. We will remain unwavering and resolute in our pursuit of justice. We believe that the pursuit of justice right now and ensuring that those responsible are brought to justice will deter this from happening. And that has to be our goal, that this should never happen again in our country. No Canadian should lose their life in this way. And that is what our commitment is, to ensure that that never happens again.
Honourable Member for Surrey Newton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to thank the Honourable Leader of the NDP. The leader mentioned intimidation by the Indian government when someone speaks against the human rights violations. And I can tell you, Madam Speaker, he has faced many, many challenges. And I give you a personal example. When I presented a petition on genocide in 2010, I was denied visa to India for 3 years. And I want to know from the leader if he is aware of many situations like this of oppressing and intimidating, including himself.
The Honourable Member for Burnaby South.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the member for sharing the personal story. As elected officials, we sign up for being in the public eye and maybe receiving repercussions for the positions we take, but we're also protected as members of Parliament. I am deeply concerned, as the member pointed out, that there are so many people from so many diaspora communities, the Sikh community who critique the abuse that Sikhs have received under the Indian government, but many other diaspora communities not just from India and not just other folks that have been oppressed in India, but I think about the Iranian community and those that have raised their voice about the oppression that their community faces in Iran, those that have championed democracy in Hong Kong and are defending the rights of Taiwan, and the real serious threats that they have to their families. This is a serious moment. We know that those threats exist. We know that Canadians have been threatened and intimidated. And we know that we have a responsibility in this House to say enough is enough. That will not happen in our country. We will use all the tools we have to get to the bottom of this, to use the power of light to shine transparency on what actually happened and to ensure that this never happens again to any community anywhere in our country.
Questions and comments. The Honourable Member for Calgary Centre. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to thank the Honourable Member from Burnaby, a leader of the NDP. I've been reflecting and talking to many of my constituency members and about the murder or assassination, I would say, that happened at the Gurdwara, the Sikh temple of worship. It's appalling to see that Conservatives will come to the temple, will walk with us in solidarity in our Nagar Kirtan parade, but today cannot stand in solidarity with Canadians in this horrific crime. What does the member have to say about how the community feels, how this assassination occurred at the Holy Sikh Temple in Surrey?
The Honourable Member for Burnaby South.
When we first learned about this incident back in June, there was a real pain in the community, a place of prayer, a place of worship, a place of community coming together. Gurdwaras have free langar, a place where people can eat and have food. It's a place of sanctuary, like many other places of prayer. And to have a leader of the community at a place of prayer and sanctuary be murdered in that way was shocking, was painful. And what has made that pain even worse is now the allegation that this was tied to the Indian government or to the Indian state. This has only reopened those wounds and made them even more painful. And that is why it is offensive that instead of showing solidarity, we have parties in this chamber, well, one party, the Conservatives, that are not standing in solidarity with a moment where there should be unity, where we should be sending a clear message that this is wrong and that we all denounce it and we all stand together in the pursuit of justice and ensuring that all the weight of Canadian jurisprudence and legal system is used to hold those accountable.
Questions and comments? The Honourable Member for Port Moody Coquitlam. Oh, no, the Honourable Member for Vancouver East.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and I want to thank my leader, the leader of the NDP, for sharing his words and to also pointing out the work that needs to be done ahead as well. I deeply appreciate the letter that has been sent to the Commissioner to ensure that the inquiry includes India. I know that the Conservatives have been silent in this debate tonight, and it is such a false pretense when they advance the notion that they believe in freedom and democracy everywhere, when they say that they stand for human rights everywhere. Yet, when we have a Canadian who's been targeted, whose life's been lost, and we need them more than ever for every member of this House to stand together, united with one voice, to send a clear message to the Indian government or any actors who threatens our sovereignty and threatens the lives of Canadians in this way, that we will not tolerate it and be true to that calling of standing for freedom for everyone, everywhere. So when the Conservatives are absent in this, what message do you think are they sending to the immigrant community, particularly to the Indo-Canadian community, who are now fearful of the situation and whose lives, who fear that their activism in the community and their fight for justice would be threatened?
Resuming debate, the Honourable Member for Port Moody Coquitlam.
What?
Oh, I'm sorry. The Honourable... Member for Burnaby South.
Oh, you do get that.
Okay. I think my colleague said it so well and so clearly. This is a moment to defend freedom of expression, freedom to exist in safety and security, and that has been threatened. And when any one of us is threatened in this way, we should be able to put partisanship aside and say, this is a matter of our national unity, this is a matter of sovereignty, this is a matter of a Canadian on Canadian soil being killed by a foreign government. That is something that is a direct attack on our sovereignty that requires a unified response to denounce it and to demand justice, to demand a full inquiry and an investigation into any sort of inferiors or anyone implicated in this matter. And that is what New Democrats are going to do. And that's what we're going to continue to push for with concrete steps that we've laid out. That's what all of us should be doing. And it is very disappointing to see the deafening silence of the Conservatives on this matter.
Resuming debate, the honourable member for Port Moody Coquitlam.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I send my condolences to the family of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. This is a tragedy and must spur serious action from the government to these allegations of foreign interference wherever they arise. It's the duty of the federal government to pursue the facts and justice for Mr. Nijjar and future protection of every Canadian at risk of foreign surveillance, harassment, and intimidation. We must come together across party lines to protect Canadians. And as Conservatives choose to be silent tonight in this important debate, it sends a message to all Canadians living in fear of foreign governments in countries they fled that the Conservatives will not stand up to protect them in difficult times. Many Canadians need our protection, Madam Speaker. I'm thinking about the Iranian community. I joined them this weekend in Vancouver as they commemorated the 1-year anniversary of the murder of Gina Mahsa Amini. This weekend, communities across this country came together to stand for human rights and dignity and democracy. And they stood together to stand against violations of human rights. My constituents from Port Moody, Coquitlam, and Morin-Belcarra want action on violations of human rights in countries across the world. And they want the same thing here, Madam Speaker, in Canada. Here in Canada, they want accountability. They want to make sure that they are here and that they are safe and that every Canadian is safe. And I will say at this point, Madam Speaker, that they share concerns. They've shared concerns with me. I know they've shared concerns with many members of Parliament in this community where they don't feel safe. And they need a space, Madam Speaker, where they can share their experience, where they can share their feelings, and where they feel that they are being heard. Protections of Canadian safety and upholding human rights and justice are a fundamental foundation of a stable and thriving democracy. And we must, especially the 338 of us here, must stand for that every day. To do this, the government must do more to ensure that there is protection from the RCMP for people who may be at threat, who may be at risk. The NDP are asking for diplomatic sanctions and a review of all the Indian diplomats in Canada and the inclusion of India in the foreign interference inquiry. I will close, Madam Speaker, with the thought that this is time for this government to take foreign interference seriously, and it is also time for the official opposition, the Conservatives in this country, to come together and unite for Canadians in Canada.
Questions and comments? The Honourable Member for Kingston and the Isles.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I understand that this is the last speech tonight, so perhaps I'll ask this member for her opinion on what has gone on tonight. Never in the 8 years that I've spent in this House have I seen the Conservatives so utterly silent on an issue. They haven't given a single speech other than 5 minutes right at the beginning. They haven't asked a single question. It is absolutely clear to me that there's an orchestrated attempt within the Conservative caucus, and somebody has said nobody is speaking on this. They've silenced the members. That's the only thing that I can interpret from this. But I don't know why. I can't understand why. This is something that seems like it would be so easy for all of us to come together and be in solidarity on.
That's right.
I'm wondering if this member, as the last speaker tonight, can provide her thoughts on why that might be.
It's a really good question. The honourable member for Port Moody Coquitlam.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And every time I stand in the House, I stand for the constituents of my riding of Port Moody Coquitlam and Morin Belcarra. And I expect that the Conservatives do the same. They come out to rallies, they talk about human rights, they like to filibuster communities. At the end of the day, they have a responsibility to stand in the House for this, for their ridings and for the constituents in their riding. And I would say, as I stand in this House today, Madam Speaker, that do not elect a Conservative, because if you want to be safe from foreign interference in this country, the Conservatives will not stand up for you.
That's right. Questions and comments? The honourable member for Calgary Centre.
Skyview.
Scott.
I want to thank the honourable member from Port Moody Coquitlam for her speech. I've been reflecting, you talked about democracy. Mr. Nijjar was the president of the Sikh Gurdwara in Surrey, democratically elected. And I see Conservative members across who stood in solidarity at the Regina Nagar Kirtan parade. The Conservative House leader, I believe, was with me that day. I saw the member giggling and laughing across from him from Sherwood Park, tweeting away, not about solidarity with the tragic loss. I want to ask the member, how does that make you feel when you see members from the Conservative Party pander when they want support and votes, but in a moment like this, when Canadians are hurt and want solidarity with all politicians, that you see silence?
Madam Speaker, as the member was asking me that question, I was thinking of all of the mothers, the grandmothers, of all the women that have come to my office to talk about how their voices have been silenced across the globe. We know that human rights infractions around women, and it's gender equity this week, actually, I'll mention that. And I just think about the importance of standing up for human rights and the importance of actually protecting our communities. And as a woman, I hear these stories and I feel an obligation to protect them. And democracy is the way to do it. We do it with our vote, and we do it with our pen. That's how we do it.
Questions and comments? The honourable member for Vancouver East.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I also want to thank my colleague for her comments and thank her also for showing up at the one-year anniversary rally for the Iranian community. Madam Speaker, as we know, as a parliamentarian, we use our words in this House to express our point of view, to bring forward the thoughts and the vision of our community, to advance the perspective of our community in this Parliament. And it is often said, of course, words alone is not enough, and we show how we support our words by our action. And part of that is in this debate, and particularly in this Take Note debate, is to show up in the House and to participate in that debate. But yet we have not seen the Conservatives engage in that way. Now, the leader of the official opposition spent $3 million on a makeover, wanting Canadians to believe that he is somebody else. But wouldn't you say, Madam Speaker, that action speaks louder than words? And in this moment in time, the lack of participation from the Conservatives in this critical debate shows the true color of who the Conservatives really are.
That's right.
Wow. The honourable member for Port Moody Coquitlam, 15 seconds.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I just want to thank the member from Vancouver East for always standing up for the constituents and for standing up for Canadians. And I just want to say that we know that in times of troubles, in times of necessity we must come together, and I think that it has shown, as the member said, it has shown today that there is not solidarity from the Conservative Party here. I'm not sure what their objectives are, but it certainly isn't to stand up for the protection, safety, justice and democracy of Canada.
Comme il est 22h34, conforme.
It being 10:34, pursuant to Standing Order 53.1, the committee will rise.
Accordingly, this House stands adjourned until tomorrow at 2 p.m. pursuant to Standing Order 24.1.